Welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be making some more of these squares. I think my tension was a bit different. This is one of the earlier ones, and these ones I made this morning, but it is what it is. I'm using a 4.5mm crochet hook. I need a pair of sharp scissors, and I need a chenille needle. This is a darning needle. It's got a blunt end, and I like the chenille needles. They have a pointed end. So I'll be using that to stitch up or to sew in the ends afterwards. I also need a selection of different colors. And even though I normally have these that I would use, I make them in advance. I have a whole lot of them. I'm going to start from scratch for the benefit of the video. But normally, yeah, I like to make all these in one go, especially with the tiny little pieces of yarn that I have left over. Put the scissors aside. I'll keep them up here. I will start with the center. Let me zoom in for this. Get the camera angle right. And a bit more. I'll start with the center. I am making a magic loop and yarn to the front. Still quite right the angle. Okay. Start that again. Magic loop, yarn to the front. Go and fetch the yarn, pull it through. It's a first knot. I don't count that as a chain. Chain 2. Then I make 1 double crochet. This is US terms. And chain 1. And I'll make 3 double crochet. If I was keeping the same color, I would have started off with 2 double crochet, which would have made 1 cluster. But because I'm going to be cutting this yarn, I've made it this way. So there's my first group, which is missing a double crochet, and I have 3 double crochets. First corner, second corner, this is the first corner there, second corner, chain 1, 3 double crochet. That's another cluster, which is a side, chain 1, which is a corner, 3 double crochet, US terms, and another corner, chain 1. So I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 sides. I'm missing 1 more double crochet from the first side, double crochet, and that is now a complete circle. Cut a nice long piece and pull the yarn by pulling the hook. I close the magic circle by tugging on the yarn. Turn it over, and this is where I need my needle. I'm taking the chenille one. Thread the yarn through the needle. And then I'm looking for the V that is created at the top of that beginner chain set. I'm going to use the back of the chenille needle because it's blunt. I'm going to go through the V. I'm going to pull it. I'm going to go through the V that is at the top of this last double crochet. There we go. That is the completion of the first color. I will just work this down a little bit just to store it for now, and I'll come and finish it later on. Store my chenille needle on my magnet. Choose the next color. I'll go for something light, considering I'm working against this blue. Maybe the green wasn't the best choice. I'm going to make a slip knot, so I am going to put the tail to the back of my finger, put the hook underneath, go and fetch the yarn, bring it through. But I'm not going to chain. Instead, I'm going to drop the loop on my finger, make a slip knot. The tail's to the back, which means when I pull the tail, it closes that slip knot, which is important for later when I want to close the loop that is created. You'll see now. I choose a corner. There's 4 corners. The corners are created by the chain 1. I go in there. I'm going to make a single crochet. So I'm bringing the yarn through, fetch the yarn again, and bring it through. That's a single crochet. As you can see, this is quite big. I just close it by pulling the tail. I chain 1 more, and that makes my first double crochet. If I was going to make another row with this color, in other words 2 rows, I would make a cluster of 3, but I'm not. I'm going to be making 1 row of this color. So instead of making a cluster of 3, I'm going to make a cluster of 2. And when I come back at the end, I will tuck a double crochet in there. That's just the way I like to do it, but I do change it. I mean, sometimes I forget and I make a cluster of 3, and then that's just the way it is. Chain 1 for the corner, make another cluster of 3, well, I say another, I make a cluster of 3. I'm on a side. I do not chain on the sides. These are compact granny squares. Oh yes, what I should have pointed out, and I didn't, is that my squares are all reversed. So that's the first row. And when I made the next row, I reversed my little circle, my little starter, and I worked on this way. When I made the next row, I reversed. The next row, reversed. The next row, reversed. It's a granny square worked on the reverse. And then you get this effect. It also stops me from warping my squares. I have a tendency to warp because of the way that I pull the yarn. Sorry about that. If you've made a mistake, please pull it out and make sure that you're working on the back. I mean, obviously, if you want your granny squares to all be worked from the same side, that's also your prerogative. But these granny squares are specifically for the blanket I'm working on. So, going into the next corner, I make a cluster of 3. I chain 1 for the corner, and I make another cluster of 3 in the same space. This is setting the pattern for all the rows. On the sides, I do not chain. I go straight into the next corner. Cluster of 3, chain 1, cluster of 3. Oops. For that last corner, can be a bit tricky to find. Cluster of 3, chain 1, cluster of 3, and because I'm going to be ending this color and I have started off with 2, the first one was, remember, that single crochet chain 1, which counts as the first double crochet, and then another double crochet. I need to slip a double crochet into there. That will complete the cluster. I cut a nice length of yarn and I pull it out by pulling the hook. I need to work it away again. I mean, normally I'll do a whole batch and then I'll work them away. So I'll do a whole batch of, as you saw, the row 1, I have a bunch of those. But row 2, I'll make a whole batch, just changing the colors, and then I'll work all the ends away, and then I'll make row 3 and I'll do the same thing. Just speeds it up. I go through the V with the back of the chenille. There's that cluster, closing it nicely. There's 2 parts to this. There's the V, and then there's this little tiny loop at the back here. And make sure to work through both. Don't pull it too tight, but I don't let it gape too much. Try and make it match the other ones. Pinch it. Make sure you're holding it nicely. Come to the back. Pick up the base of the that. Go over to the other side. Happy with that. Undo it a little bit by twisting the yarn. And just work all the way down. Picking up, and this nice sharp point digs in and breaks open all those fibers. I'm going to leave it. I'll work it away later. Put away my needle again. So this is the right hand side. As you can see, look, the center's already come loose, but it's fine. I'm going to be working from that side. Third color. Let me choose something that's going to show in the video. This is fine. Same process. Tail to the back because I'm making a slip knot. And I want to be able to pull that tail. Yarn underneath both on my finger. Pull this out. Go and fetch the yarn. Bring it back. I'm not making chains. I'm not building. What I'm making is a slip knot. So I take it off my finger. There's my little knot and pull the tail. Having chosen the side that I'm working from, I'm going to go as far away from the tails from the last row as possible. I can work into the corner, or I can work into the side, it doesn't really matter. So let me work into the side to show what that's like. As I'm going to be making 1 row of this color, I'm only going to make 2. Bring the yarn under and then go and fetch it again for a single crochet, chain 1. So you see how this is gaping? I close that off by pulling the tail. That counts as my first double crochet, so I'll make another one. Later on when I come back, I'll slip 1 into there. Going into the corner space, there's no chain 1 between the clusters on the side. So I'm going straight into that corner space and I'm making a cluster of 3. As it's a corner, I will chain 1, make another cluster of 3, this is not a very pleasant yarn, this one. The fibers break up all the time. It's very splitty. Going into that space there, there's no chain 1 between the clusters as it's a side. Cluster of 3. Scissors have fallen down. I'm coming to the next corner. I'm going straight into the first cluster. I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to go into the next cluster. I'm on a side, cluster of 3. Coming to the corner, cluster of 3, chain 1, cluster of 3. I give an extra little tug on this second cluster because I tend to have a loose tension in my corners, and it deforms my squares. Side, my tension's normal. Tension, I dictate the tension by this finger here. So you can see the yarn's just coming off nicely. Once again, the yarn's coming off nicely. It's so much like a sewing machine. There's this funny little head that goes up and down. And then you get, on the sewing machine, you get this, usually a round disc, which are those fingers there. And by tightening them, I tighten the thread coming through. So here, my second cluster, I tighten a bit, keep just a little bit here in the fingers here, but it's this finger here that I pull back on it. See, it's like pulling back. Just so that it's nice and tight, that second group. In the end off, look at that, you can see that I've been pulling. Coming to the last one, because I started off with 2, I pop my third one in there, and I cut the yarn. On the next row, you'll see I do it a bit differently because I'll be doing 2 rows of the same color. As I said, sometimes I forget. It's not the end of the world. It's just that I like to work away the V's, but not where it's joining 2 clusters. I like to work away my V inside a cluster. It's personal preference. So there's my V's. I go to the top, V, pull the yarn through with the back of the chenille, go through there. Making sure I get the 2 parts of the stitch. As you can see, 2 parts. Hold it in place, pick it up, go to the other side, pick it up, even weave it across. As my next row is going to be working into there. If it was my last row, I wouldn't be doing this. Be more careful. But as I'll be working into there in my next row, I'm actually going to go right into that space there and come back out. I'm doing specifically with this yarn because it's not a very nice yarn. It's pretty, but I don't like the way it just falls apart. So I'm being extra careful to really make sure that it's not going to unravel. So look, I'm literally going back and forth in a little bit of a zigzag. And then I'm going to go into this worm. I'm going to work this one away right now so it doesn't undo. The green is a little bit in the same family. They actually come from the same place. Some of the yarns from that store are nice. It's Aldi, and some of them are a little bit difficult to work with. So I came through the worm. I call it a worm. Then I'm going to go back up. I'm going to weave into this corner. I mean, into this space here, which is going to be underneath the worm of the next row, and I go down into that cluster there. Lovely chenille needles breaking into the fibers, cutting in, and I keep unraveling the tail. Coming across another one. It might look like overkill, but I really don't want a blanket, because if you have one square that comes loose in your blanket, your whole blanket is pretty much messed, unless there's someone who's willing to repair it. And that's a real shame, isn't it? So I'm going to cut this one away, because I now know that I've worked him. There we go. Now we're coming to the main color. Put these guys back into my little basket from Poundland. The main color is white. This is from Mariners. It's an essential, white essential. Starting with my slip knot. Pull the tail. Choosing the side that I'm working from, as I'm working from the reverse. That's the front, turning it over. I'm not going to work from the corner. I'm going to choose one of the sides. These threads will be on this side. Do not make it top heavy. I'm going to choose the other side. Well, they're the blues. So let me go to this corner here. Sometimes I don't always check, but I tend to do it automatically. So yeah, here's a nice side. There we go. Let's go to the side here. Going into the space, fetching the yarn, working my first single crochet, chain 1, that makes a double crochet, pulling the tail a little bit. Now, because this is going to have 2 rows, I'm going to come back and I'm going to be climbing up and reversing direction. So I'm going to make 3 here. As I said, sometimes I forget, but today I'm not forgetting. Going to the next space and making 3. This yarn is thicker, so I'm going to increase the tension, hopefully to make my square a little bit smaller. The purple and the green are actually rather thin yarns, so I try to work a little bit loosely with those ones. This blanket was using up all the scraps, the little odds and ends. Even though I have a few balls more of this purple and the green, I had a lot of scraps as well. And so working these kind of squares really does do away with all those scraps. It's fantastic. I am making clusters of 3. I am not chaining on the side. The only place I chain is in the corner. And obviously when I start, there's that one little tiny chain, which is part of the first double crochet stitch. Corner, keeping it under tension. Yeah, this morning I was chatting and really not concentrating when I made my squares. I tend to make my squares in a series. I get bitten by a bug and then I make however many until the bug wears off. So the tension tends to stay the same for all those squares. So I had 116. I need 4 more. I need 5 more. I think, how many did I need? 121? Anyway, I started making a few, and then I thought I'd just make a video of it, just so that I can put it into the same playlist. This blanket's going to have a black edge, so that playlist will be the black edged blanket. Afghan, I call them Afghans because they're quite large. This one's turning out to be a nice size. halfway through sewing the squares on. In the corner, chain 1. So I'm coming back to where I started the row. There are 3 stitches in that cluster, so I will not be adding another one here. But what I will be doing is finding that top V, and with my hook going into the top V and fetching the yarn, and then bring it all the way through. Slip knot. I mean slip stitch, not slip knot. So now I have a slip stitch. I have 2 choices. I can either turn and make my first single crochet, chain 1. That's one way of doing it. And as I said, sometimes I do the one way, sometimes the other way. Or I'm here with my slip knot and I can go backwards, fetch my yarn, do my single crochet, chain 1, and then I turn the work. Now if I wasn't turning the work, this is the way that you would do it. And then you can either make it a double crochet in here and then just continue the work, the row. But as I'm turning my work, I'm turning it. So this is really my favorite way of climbing up rows. I make my first double crochet. As I will be finishing the next row, I'm going to come and I'm going to slip double crochet into there. So I'm only going to make 2 for now. I'm going into the corner space and making 3, chain 1 and 3. Doing this in real time, so I will not pause. There's no rhyme or reason to my videos. Sometimes I pause, sometimes I don't. Sometimes my videos have more editing than other times. This is natural daylight behind me, but I also have a lamp on. And it's working well with the white. I actually moved my stand this morning, my phone stand, so that I could work with the natural light. I have some more of those black triangles to make to try and finish my Elmer afghan. And as I said in another video, I really don't like working with black when it comes to making squares. And so I try and make the squares or the triangles when I have natural light. It was an error in judgment to try and make an edging with black, because that blanket is taking forever to finish simply because of that. I don't look forward to it. So there we go. My favorite color definitely is to work with this white, and I also like the fluorescence. So when I get white from Mariners, I just buy 10 or 15 balls at a time. That's how I ended up with so many squares. This one. I had a bunch more. They were much smaller, but I managed to sell those on eBay. But now that I've discovered the joys of actually joining squares, I don't have to worry about selling them on eBay. I can just simply make them into a blanket or afghan. There we go. And I'm coming to the end of this row, and it will be the end of this color. So there we go. I'll just double check that I've got 2. Don't want to get my tail caught up in it. Just tucking it in nicely there. Cut a long tail. Pull the yarn out. Fetch my chenille needle, which is on the magnet. Using the back of the chenille needle, finding the top of that start there. Start a stitch, it was a single crochet plus a chain 1. So I look for the top of it. Go into the V, pull the yarn out, go into the V backwards, making sure that I have both parts of the stitch. Turn it around, pinch it with my finger so I don't distort it. Pick up the bottom, pull it through. So I have a tail here which I'll be working away. I'll work the tail in this direction, so I'll go in that direction with this guy. Unraveling, going straight down. Going across into the worm. Unraveling as I go and trying to bite into this. In this case, I'm biting into the pink. Going to come up and across, biting the point into as much of the fiber as I can, working across this worm and down that worm. I'm going to work the next white one and then I'm going to cut it. So this guy was in the corner. Because of that, as I don't want to overload that corner if possible, unravel, 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 pull a little bit more, slip knot nice and tight. I'm going to go into this worm here. Going to go up to that worm, come down. I'll just keep on going until I run out of tail. This will be the last one. As I can get sidetracked, I can be doing something and then doing something else. I've realized that it's actually better to cut the tails as I go. Otherwise, mistakes can happen and your whole square unravels. So I can choose another color. It doesn't have to be the pink. I'm just going to choose the blue simply because it's there. The pink's a bit messed up with the green, so let me just get the blue out of the way. Doesn't matter which one I choose, but I will check which is my starter one. Where's the knot? There's the knot. because what I'm going to try and do is try and pull that knot in to the stitch next to it. So you can see the knot is there. I say, which way is the knot going? So I'm not going to work that way. I'm going to work this way to try and get the knot to disappear. There he goes. The knot is gone. And come up. I could come down again, but I'm going to use this tail in this section. So I'm going to take this one over to the other side. Going over to the other side. Now the greens and the purples won't be nearby. Go down into that worm, biting into the green as I go. My finger at the back works as a check to make sure I'm not going to be sticking through. I'm going to go into the purple. See this finger at the back there? This one's working. Now it's this one that's working. Come through. It's the ring finger that's working. Just checking that it's not sticking out. Go all the way down through the green again. That's lovely. Been around a few times. Now take the other blue. Unravel the yarn. So he's come from somewhere. I don't want to go back. What I'm going to do is pick up some of the green. Go up to the purple. Go underneath. I'm pinching as well as I go, so I don't distort my stitches. And I'm going to come all the way down again. Going to go back, but I'm actually pinching into the green. When I'm digging into the green with my sharp point. So even though I'm coming back, it's not gonna be coming back on himself in this case. There we go. Come out there. Go back a little bit. Also, this blue is a splitty kind of yarn. So I'm going to work him as far as possible. Okay, start there. Happy with that. Put the needle away. Cut off the tails. Nice. So what do I work next? I think I'm going to go straight for the green. So he's opened up. Whereas some yarns, when I've pulled that closed, it doesn't open up. But this one, as you can see, he's just a slippery old fella. He's this particular green yarn, just like the purple and the blue. So I'd be so sad if a blanket came apart simply because I didn't work a tail away. So I'm checking. Okay, clockwise. And then off I go. Working clockwise, trying to bite in with that sharp point. I will be coming back with this green, going in the opposite direction, like that. Give it as much resistance as possible so it doesn't unravel. Go up to the corner. Get itchy nose. It's not very long, so I'm going to put the needle in first and pull it out. See if I can just go down. Yeah, okay, okay. See what's going on here. Can't see the start or end of that one. That's fine. There's no knot that I have to try and work away. He's obviously hidden already. So look guys, look guys. See this yarn? It's not the best, is it? So I'm going to straight up, I think, and start off in the blue. I'm now using a yarn called Stylecraft. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Stylecraft Special DK. So even though I have lots of this old yarn, well, this not old yarn, but this yarn that I'm obviously going to be using up, my new all-time favorite is Stylecraft. I like the quality, and I love the colors. Bought over 60 colors, making the most amazing afghan, my Alma afghan. It's an absolute pleasure to work with. So that's the green. I could cut them, but I'm not going to because I know that they're short and I'm going to work them away. So there's the purple, there's the knot. Give it a little tug. What direction is it going in? It's going in that direction, towards the left, my left. So when I work it away, I'm going to work in the direction of the left. Unravel the fibers. Go into the stitch next to it. It's tucked away. Go up, go into the first white worm. It is easier to work a color away when there's more than one row of that particular color. In this case, it's not the case, so I have to keep on working in all kinds of directions. You go up into this one here. I always feel the big worms give just that little bit extra resistance, because the way that they've been worked, they've got 6 stitches coming into one small space. Down again. And the purple is gone. Okay. There we go. See, the white is quite thick and these are thin, so there's a little bit of a distortion happening. Can't be helped. This purple is thick here. It's a better block. This green's also thick. The red is thin. That's thick. This green is thin. The white is thin. It's a bit better in size. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so that is the official video for making the squares for this afghan, which is coming along very nicely. This is labeled as the black edged afghan. As you can see, all those colors that I've been using up, and I'm halfway across now, and here they are stored in here, coded by row, and the last 2 rows are in here. I'll add these guys in. So when I finish that, I'll lay it out again and just put those ones in. That's the corner. Love Poundland. This is from Poundland. That's from Poundland. Thank you very much for watching, and Hope to see you in the next video. Bye now.